8 hours a day, 7 days a week. Many of us are tied to a position we are willingly and sometimes unwillingly filling for the purpose of passion, survival, or financial gain. Although work has many benefits, it does come with a cost. Solely it changes from a role that we play each day to an integral piece of how we describe ourselves. If we are not careful, it can turn into something that can consume us. Today on Therapy House, our guests explore the question of when does work become too much? They share about their challenges with how it consumed them and how they were able to break out of the loop. This is your host, Jeremiah Knight. Let's start the show. Welcome to another episode of Therapy House, the podcast. This is your host, Jeremiah Knight, and I found another one of my co-hosts, Jorge Mesa.
I was lost, but now I'm found. Here I am. Thanks for having me back.
There we
Glad
go.
to be here.
Yes. And we've brought his lovely wife here with us, Lauda.
Hi, everybody. I am technically in another podcast.
Technically.
It's yet to be released.
Yet to be released. It's been
But this
marinating.
one might be my first one out first, actually.
This one might come out first.
But I am out there.
Exactly.
I do exist.
And she'll be coming back again and again.
Yeah.
'Cause we got plans. We got plans for episodes. And so I've asked them to come in to talk about life and life beyond their work. These two are also other fellow helping professionals. Of course, Jorge is another handsome, bearded man, such as I. We have a few of those in the group. Some, their beards don't connect. And so doesn't mean we don't love them any less. Shout out to John. Lou, I think he could grow a full beard
If you wanted to.
if he wanted to, but he's just
Mhm.
choosing not.
He just has such a defined chin. It just looks so good.
As
It's
we
so
showed
good.
off.
So, as we know that work kind of consumes all of us to some degree, and I think there's people out there nowadays that are bogged down by work as well, here in the Silicon Valley or even just across the world, is also a big part of our own lives as we develop our own sense of self, and it's something that we wear, like a badge of honor, that we are therapists or engineers or social workers or corporate managers or sometimes chefs at McDonald's. It's part of our world. It's part of our life. We spend hours and hours a day doing it and assuming that role. And it leaves an impact on us to some degree. Some of it is positive. Some of it is negative if we let it consume us too much. I wish that I could say that, hey, this topic came to me as out of pure observation of other people, but instead it came in the form of fair, constructive feedback. Your boy's been out here dating. I think dating is interesting in the sense of you're coming in contact with a lot of new people and they have their own thoughts and ideas of life and they provide a interesting critique or thoughts about you. And one of the critiques I received was that, hey, all I do is talk about work. I talk about the court. I talk about the families I work with. I talk about the adults in therapy. And sometimes that is all I talk about. And that kind of gets in the way of them really getting to know me. And that's fair. Since then, I've kind of started to realize, like, oh, yeah, it is. It's a big part of my life. It's a big part of what I do through the day. It's 12 hours of what I do Monday through Friday. So it's reasonable to say, yeah, I'm letting that role take over. And there are some consequences to that. And it made me contemplate whether the people around me are feeling the same way, whether or not they're experiencing some of the consequences of that piece as well, or how do they kind of break out of it? And one of the people that came to mind that I felt like did a great job with this was Jorge and Lauda. A lot of the time, whenever we do come together, they're always doing something. They're on an adventure. They're riding e-bikes. They're taking care of their dog Shaggy, DJ sets, raves. And so I invited them in to talk about this topic and get their thoughts on it. With Jorge being a licensed marriage family therapist, and Lara being a social worker, working with kids in Department of Family and Child Services. Both are jobs in helping professions. So I think that uniquely consumes us because it's vastly different than us just pushing numbers. It's dealing with people and day to days, and that adds its own complexities. And yet they've found a way to kind of balance stuff. So I'm curious, what do you guys think about your roles and how it fits into who you guys are just as people? And do you guys feel like it consumes you a bit sometimes?
Yeah, well, first off, like, I just want to say thank you for having us here, and I definitely feel very honored that as this kind of was something that you were getting feedback from in your own life, that when you were reflecting, it was like something that you saw in us, like, oh, I see you guys like maybe not always talking about work or doing some other things. So I'm
Mhm.
wondering what's happening in their lives, you know?
That's
So I'm really honored, and I was telling Lotta, just really glad that, you feel that way about us, and it kind of reinforces like, oh, maybe we are doing something good, right, babe? Like maybe we are striking a balance because it's definitely been up and down. But I feel like it's only natural to talk about work as an adult. Like the more that you grow up, it's like your social circles go from being school environment, right? Talking about the stress of school, homework,
mhm.
bitching and moaning about teachers, things like that, group projects. And then you naturally go into a work environment. So I just feel like that's never going to stop. But for some people, I do feel like they can really turn it off. And for others, it's just like an ongoing thing. I think it's been a learning experience for the both of us, especially because we work in the helping field. We're constantly talking to people. And I would say that we constantly talk to people that are never in a good place. They're usually trying to grow. Something's not right emotionally. And so when you're just absorbing all this information and you're in a relationship, you're in a marriage, I think naturally it's just like a topic of conversation, right? Like naturally when couples ask, "How was your day?" I feel like it's a little bit different than when you're talking to a friend where they're like, "Oh, it was good." You kind of want to expand a little bit more, maybe anecdote, like something that happened at work. But yeah, I feel like it's definitely been a journey of how much do we share. We've gotten moments where we're oversharing and saying so much about work, and then other times where recently, just kind of filtering how much we share.
Well, I also want to say thank you for thinking about us. I think it feels good to know that people on the outside can see maybe some of the effort that we're putting because it's definitely not easy.
Mhm.
It's been a learning experience. And for some context, Jorge and I have been together for a long time. We met in college, started dating kind of towards the end of our sophomore year, and then, got married in 2019. So we've had quite a ride of what he was speaking about, like venting about college, and then, oh, we're adults now in the real world and
Mhm.
kind of learning our place and what that looks like, as well as the professions that we decided to get into. And then both of us went back to grad school at different moments. And so that was then another kind of stressor added for us growing together. It's it's been up and down, and even now, I think it still takes some tweaking of us to be like, "You know what? I had a tough day, but I just wanna go home, and I just wanna forget about it," right?
Mhm.
So, sometimes we have those days, and then I think, like he was saying, because of what we do, where we work, the type of work that we do, it just feels like you kinda wanna let it out, and I think both of us obviously recognize that while he's a licensed MFT and I'm a social worker, our professions interlap quite a bit. While I don't do specific, like therapy, I did a lot of that stuff in school. So I'm not like completely unknown to the therapeutic
Mhm.
world, right? And so like we lean on each other, kind of using what we've learned to support each other. Definitely not to the point where we're giving therapy, but we try and just help each other either just vent it out, maybe work through a problem, or to just say, "Hey, you did the best that you could. It is what it is." Like you can't control other people's lives. So it is still very much a work in progress,
Right.
and I've had different jobs, Jorge has had different jobs, and so that it's almost been like a reset in a way every time we've gotten a job because then it's something new that we weren't doing before. So, like, with the Department of, Children and Families, it was hard to try and vet to him because there's so much that goes in the background that he doesn't know,
Right.
and it would take me, like, too long to explain that I was like, "I'm over it," right? Because I have to be like, "Well, look, this is what we had to do, and then, like, we have this tool, and then we do this,"
You
and
gotta
then I
fill out
kinda,
this
like
form and
yeah, and then I kinda get lost in the fact that, like, I didn't even get to tell him that I had, like, a shitty call, right? So, like, it got lost in trying to explain the back end stuff. So that was something new that we kinda had to deal with where,
mhm,
in the beginning, Jorge was like, "I don't know how to hear you out because I just don't know these moving parts," because he doesn't do the job. So it's still very much us trying to figure it out, and because we do work with people, every day is different. Literally every day is different. Sometimes Tuesdays where he's not necessarily always booked, that tends to be like an easy day, right? He comes home, he went to the gym yesterday night, and so he's kinda chilling, we
mhm,
try and hang out together, but aside from Tuesday, all the other days, he's basically, like, back to back.
mm,
And so then those days are definitely one of the hardest. Or Friday, Friday is always special
mhm,
because you're always just like, the weekend is right here, right? So it, like, makes it extra hard to work on Friday. I don't think we've perfected it, but I think we've gotten better at kind of going with the flow, and because we've been together for so long, I mean, that's been so helpful. I know his personality, he knows mine, we know our communication style and kinda what works best, and kind of I mean, obviously, we know how to push each other's buttons. So, we also know when, like, "Hey, sometimes we just need a break. We'll reconvene after a little bit, you get yourself out of your work clothes, all good, I'll be over there, come when you're ready," and
mhm,
Yeah, I feel like we've definitely learned just through trial and error what both of us needs after work and
mhm,
yeah.
like what decompressing means. I know I'm a little bit more codependent in the sense that I really want to share what my day was with
mhm,
Laura. Like I really want to talk to her about what I did, whether it's like clients or some random person that I saw while I was riding my bike to work. I'm just very excited about that. And the other way around, like when I was not working and she would come home from work, I was just very excited about what did you do for work today? This is what I did. Really just engaging as soon as I see her. And I think that's also something that just reinforces my love for her, right? That I
mhm,
want to share these things with her, that I automatically, when a significant event happens at work or
mhm,
with me, it's like automatically I say, I want to tell Laura this. That's something that I've noticed that I want to do. Whereas with her, she's more like, I need some time to decompress.
right.
I need to like eat some chips and like watch like mindless television for
Hot
like an
Cheetos
hour.
and then Love Island
And then
and
finally, yep, and then finally I can come and talk.
yeah,
We've kind of realized that we need to pick and
mhm,
choose what is it that we want to share. And I know for me, it's that impulse of not everything has to be told to my wife. I don't have to say every minute detail about what happened at work. Maybe something, like that I can share, but it doesn't have to be like this whole like I guess, like, what is it? Like a whole, like, play
mhm,
by play, like, replay,
right,
like, the highlights of work. I don't have to say it every single time, and I would notice sometimes that she would just kinda look zoned out or just uninterested, and sometimes I would feel, like, rejected, like, "Okay, she's not paying attention or she
right,
doesn't care what I'm talking about." But in reality, it's more like, well, how much how much do I really need to be telling her these things? And
right,
can this space be filled up with more things for us as a couple to do
mhm.
versus me just like saying a lot of stuff about work?
Yeah, because it sounds like there was this piece of like, I want to share this with my wife. I want to share this with my significant other, this person I really care about. These like bits for connection because I want to take you into my world and share experiences with you. And I'm hoping you're receiving this piece. And it's just a question of how much space do I want that to take up? Because there's other ways of connecting, but
Exactly.
this is our only form. Kind of going back and forth, trying to figure out, well, what's enough? There has to be a little bit more than just this work taking up for our connection.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at least for me with Jorge saying that, I guess in my thought And I'm not zoning out, I'm definitely listening to him, but I guess for me, I was just like, "Just let him vent it out." But
Mhm.
then, I kind of just am purposely not asking more questions because I I want him, like, when he comes home for lunch and I'm there, I want him to be able to just, like, take a break, like, use lunch to eat, to be on his phone,
Right.
to talk to me about Love Island, or, like, share memes with me, or, like, ask
Mhm.
me how my day was, right? Like, I
Yeah.
guess I'm of the mindset of, like, if he needs to vent maybe about something that happened earlier, like, just let him talk about it, say your, "Mhm, oh, that sucks,
Mhm.
damn," right? But, like, don't engage more so that then he can finish and finally, like, relax, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming from, where I don't want to keep him in that mindset of work, right? But I guess, for him, he took it a different way, and so this is literally something that just came up for us, like, this past week where I purposely was trying harder not to be so much like, "And what about this?
Yeah.
And this and that," so that he can kind of take that break. And then there was actually a couple weeks ago, I started to be out of the house when he came home for lunch
Yeah.
because I felt like I was asking him about work, and again, in my mind, I'm just like, "Shoo, I'm always asking him about work, like, how has your morning been?" Like, this guy doesn't get a break. So I was like, "You know what? What if I'm just not at home, and that way he has the house to himself, he can do what he wants to do." And there was one day where I didn't feel like going anywhere, so I was just driving, and he ended up calling me, and we talked, and then he's like, "I miss you."
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh, damn." Maybe what I think I'm trying to do to help is actually not hitting the mark like I want it to. So now I try and be home for lunch if I head out, or if I wanna head out, I do it when I know that he's gonna get back to work.
Mm.
But it's those things that we're still trying to figure out because I had thought that maybe I was putting too much pressure on him of like,
Right.
"Well, how's work? Tell me about it."
Yeah, and I get there's that we're in a profession that is very helping, so there's a lot of interactions, a lot of inner work that we do. There's a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions, not only that we have to hold for, but also within ourselves, and sometimes it's really engaging work, and so you want to share that. But I think outside people see how we might be getting worked up or how much space this actually takes in our mind, and so I can understand there's this piece of hey, you don't know how much space this takes up. It
Mhm.
actually you think it takes up the space of the couch and that's it. No, no. It fills the room. It fills hours and days. And I can understand how people would want something to be different or be worried about us because yeah, it does consume a bit.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going through a transition in work. I started a new job 6 months ago, and in my previous job, I had a partner that
Mm.
I interacted with every single day. I mean, I was riding in a car with this person, and so I had the privilege to debrief my work immediately after I would have a client. And so I think that really helped kind of the day-to-day just letting out, right, whatever stuff I was feeling, and then I would be able to come home and maybe just tell her, like, the big event or, like, "This wild," or, "Can you believe this happened?"
Mhm.
And that's just, like I came in kinda, like, feeling already refreshed versus in this role, I feel a little bit more isolated at work. I don't think that I have a lot of, good relationships with colleagues yet, like, I've developed that where I can just kinda, like, go into somebody's office and just like, "Man, that was a heavy session," and in
Mhm.
my previous jobs, I would have that, where I would just kinda, like, look over across the desk, and there'd be, like, another therapist, and I'd be like, "This fucking client just, like, stressed me out, man."
Yeah.
So I feel like I bring up a lot of that now to my house, and it's slowly been, like, a realization, 3 months in, I was starting to get really burnt out. My grandfather passed away this year,
Mm.
and so I obviously also had a job transition. So I realized that I was not really having the space to just, like, process and just debrief
Mm.
and not even really consult, but to really just let out. And, it just made me miss more, like, my partner, like, my work partner, and just, like, knowing that, man, like, I did have that space and now I don't, and so I sometimes do think now as I'm saying it out loud, when Lauda was working at her really intense jobs as a call taker, Yeah, like, she also didn't have, someone to just, like, walk across the room and just, like, say something to, like, it was
Mhm.
me, and so, yeah, it's just, like, one of those things where I guess depending on our work and what we've been doing, it has changed, like, how we use each other as husband and wife.
Yeah.
Lately, I feel like we've been doing better at, like, okay, now we need to separate some of that stuff and fill in more, like, pleasurable things to do rather than just talk about work
Mm.
or again, for me, I keep going to that automatic impulse of something happens at work, automatically, I'm gonna call my wife. "Just wait
Man.
till I tell you this stuff,"
Yeah,
and it's
man.
like, "'Cause you're my person," but clearly I can have a relationship, like you said, with this
Yeah.
person in a different capacity.
Yeah, and I think you guys had to work it out, fine tune it, how you guys begin that conversation. Because I imagine there's a lot of significant others out there who have very demanding jobs, and you wanna share these things because there is no other place to debrief, and the safest person is your partner in crime here. But when does it become too much, and how you start that conversation is important. I mean, being in the podcast, yeah, I said I got that feedback. It wasn't in the best way. It seemed like it came at a point where we weren't in casual conversation.
Did they tell you, like, you needed to, like, stop talking about work
Like,
or
that's all you talk about.
Mhm.
You talk about everything else on, and I know about what these people work on and what they're trying to improve, but I don't know about you. And it's just like, okay, fair enough. And so for you guys, how do you guys get to that conversation? Because in relationships, we kind of make these voluntary, sometimes gestures or actions, like we'll move without actually talking and hope that this will reconcile and they'll get the message, mind read a little bit. But you eventually have to come back and say, oh, wait, this still isn't working. We have to have a conversation. How do you guys step into that kind of conversation to readjust things?
Well, I feel like when you're talking about that, it becomes a serious conversation. So I don't
Hmm.
think there is like a super sweet way to say that maybe something that you're doing is having the opposite effect. Because when Jorge did tell me that what I thought I was doing to help out, he felt like I was zoning out, I wasn't listening to him. That did hurt me.
Hmm.
And I think my initial instinct was almost to I don't wanna say, like, fight back, like, argue, but, like, counteract and be like, "I was trying to do this in a nice way," with the little attitude of,
Yeah,
like,
little
"That
push.
wasn't my intention," right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever had a moment where some of those things that we talk about hasn't turned into somewhat more of a serious conversation where then, at least for me, I have to tell myself, "Hey, he's not saying you did something wrong, he's just saying this is how he took it," and telling myself, "You thought you were doing something good, but that's not how it's being received," and, like, take a breath and be like, "Okay, I'm gonna change it then. I'm gonna not do that anymore, and
Right.
I'll be more engaging." I know back when I was working, so I've been almost a year on medical leave. When I had first started my current job, everything was fine. It was stressful, but I could come home, tell him really quickly that I had some crazy calls, and then we would go up about our day. And as it kind of got more stressful and my capacity to not talk about work became less and less, that's when the conversation of like, all we talk about is work. Can we
Mhm.
talk about something else? And I honestly didn't like hearing that. It made me feel bad because in my head, I knew that I talked about work, but I didn't realize how much and
Mhm.
how much I was taking from him. I'm talking about work and I need you to listen to me and I need you to like agree with me. And then you have to make me feel better. Like
Right.
you need to like get the stress off of me. So then that conversation turned into a serious one because I felt bad.
Mm.
I definitely felt bad, and I felt that I was placing a lot on him that was then making him stress out about something that he had nothing to do with.
Right.
And then as it just got worse, he basically came back and did say again, "All you talk about is work." Like, he didn't say it like this, but it was basically just like, "You need to talk about something else." And in during that time in that headspace, for me, I was just like, I have nothing else to talk about because I'm letting work consume me.
Mm.
And so it basically got to the point where last August, I was having one of those days where I was telling him, I was just like, I'm going to get fired. they think I'm stupid, like, I did such a terrible job. And I don't know if you remember, he was literally just like, "Do you need somebody to slap you?"
Mm.
And he's like, "You need to go wash your face. Like, you need some physical thing to happen to you to get out of this mindset." And I remember crying because it was such a real thing that he said that I was like, "Shit, I literally need, like, something to literally snap me out of this mentality that I'm in." So I don't know if there is really any, like, perfect way to bring that up, but I would hope that when it is brought up, it's during a time where both people are willing to explore that. I don't know if it's doing too much of, like, how does that make you feel? Like, do you need me not to talk about it at all? Do I need to talk about it less, right? But, like, at least in my experience, it's always been something serious where, like, we are kind of trying to maintain our composure and,
Mhm.
like, keep it good, but then sometimes, at least within myself, I wanna put up, like, a wall because
Yeah,
he thinks I'm too much. Or,
exactly.
like, "You know what? He doesn't care about it, so I'm not gonna say shit to him anymore," right? And, like,
Mhm. Yeah, it's
going
just
through all those feelings, but then you're just kinda like, "No, he's saying it because I talk too much, and I know it's, like, not good," right? So it's just such a
exact
serious
And
convo.
I feel like
yeah.
you get to these boiling points, right?
Yes.
That eventually someone's gonna react in a way that the other person is not gonna like. But I also want to emphasize that for anyone else that's out there, because we started this conversation about how, like, in the dating world, you've gotten this feedback. Like, again, right? We've been married for, X amount of years and been together for so long. So we've been able to really know the nuances of our own behaviors and how we
Mhm.
interact with each other. So I can understand that it's probably very different for someone who's early on in a relationship or just getting to know the person. And this is the side that they're seeing, right? Like, obviously, I know that there's another side of Laura uh, because I've witnessed it, right? Because I've been a part of that growth. And so I think that's where I felt enough courage to finally be like, hey, like, you need to. I think I remember telling you, like, I don't want to hear about your work. Like, I remember just like saying, like, flat out, like, I don't want you to talk about work when you come here. And it sounds very abrasive and very, like, off-putting. If you're saying that to somebody that you're just barely getting to know, like, in the dating world, I can imagine that's probably a turnoff,
Yeah,
maybe 8 out of 10 times, you
yeah,
know? The other 2 times, it could spark up a curiosity question, right? Like, "Oh, why do you say that?" Right?
yeah,
But naturally, people get defensive.
yeah,
And I think that's where we've been able to really, even though walls get put up naturally, right? Because, like, we say these things, we've been able to really, like, open the door and be like, "Hey, like, I'm not telling you this because I'm rejecting you, or I don't think your feelings are valid. I just think that we need to step back a little bit, right? Like,
yeah,
this is becoming too much." And I've been able to do that a lot with, like, other family members. I think that's what's
Mhm.
probably been helpful for me because as a therapist, sometimes and also as a Latino therapist, like, sometimes your family tends to really lean on you for a lot of these things. And
yeah,
I've actually had to overtly tell people, like, "I don't wanna hear about your problems anymore." Um, so maybe that's been helpful in my
yeah,
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah, and I think aside from us being together for so long, I think it goes back to our professions having so much kind of like linkage between each other, right? And while we do two completely different things, the main core of what we do is trying to help people who are not in a good and I think in the dating world, which is kind of funny because obviously we haven't dated in so many years, right? I'm over here the
or
professional.
even
In the dating world,
friendships.
let me
Please
There's
don't take our advice.
there's friendships. There's
get ready for my podcast. No.
other
And
relationships
yeah,
that
and in
demand
the
on the same
dating
thing.
world or when you're meeting somebody, maybe you started to date somebody who does something different. And so for us, maybe it's more natural to talk about things maybe more in detail
Right.
because I know that he works with people just like I work with people, and he understands how stressful it could be, upsetting,
Mhm.
angry, right? You're not only talking about maybe certain things of what you're working on with the people, but then you bring in that because of this whatever session, you were angry because, you thought they were doing well and they didn't, right? So, like, it's like not only are you saying that you had a tough session with somebody who's maybe closed off, and then you also bring back the fact that you feel frustrated and you went this, whereas maybe, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, whereas maybe somebody who I don't know, is in coding could be like, "Oh, this was really hard, like, I didn't get any support from my boss, but you know what? Tomorrow, I'm gonna ask my other coworker."
Right.
And maybe, like, it ends there, but for us, it's like, "This person didn't meet what we said we were gonna do. I'm so frustrated. I don't know what to do." Like,
Right.
it's our 3rd meet, right? So it's just like, I feel like also within our profession, there's just so much more,
Exactly.
And it's
Yeah.
so
so much
complicated, right? Like, I
more.
remember, like, venting to my police officer partner about, like, a case, and, it was that expectation of, like, it's so much more complex in my mind how I see things, and so because of that, like, getting a simple kind of rudimentary answer like, "Well, cut them off," or like, "Well, fuck that person,"
Yeah.
it
It's
Yeah.
just
just,
not
like,
necessary. Yeah.
You're like, "What?
you know,
Not
like
No, I
helpful.
can't."
and in a way, like, she wants to make me feel better, right? Because she's like, "Don't worry about it." But man, I'm like, "No, it's like Shrek. It's all these onions,
You know, you
they
gotta
got
peel.
layers." I'm just
Yeah.
peeling the first layer. So I think it's also that mindfulness of, man, like when I am with my friends, like my friend Miguel, who's a licensed clinical social worker, and we love to play golf. There's been a few times where then I'll start picking up a conversation about therapy or my work, and I could tell there's a shift already in the tone of how we talk to each other.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden now both of us have like this therapist, like part of our brain that's on,
Yeah.
and we're talking very much like professionally, but we're friends too. Whereas then we'll change the conversation to like, I don't know, something about music or going hiking.
Yeah.
And it's just a complete shift. And I've noticed it with you too. When I
Yeah.
talk to you or when I talk to my other friends, like we'll be at the gym and I'll just like say something about a client and then boom, I think we just automatically understand what needs to happen. I don't know. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. And within that, like, I feel like we have balance because we figured out this is how we do it, and if we need to drop in, we do that, and then we pick back up where we left off, and I feel like that just comes naturally from our connection.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, that's the same thing
Mhm.
with you and Laura. I mean, as you guys were talking, and I do resonate with Laura, this piece of when this person did say this thing, it was solid feedback, but there was a natural part of me that was like, "Walls are going up," because there's this piece of like, oh, this feeling, this bit for connection, and you're saying you want none of it, but you want to hear these other things. You want the balance that me and Jorge have. Okay, I get that piece, but then am I too much? Is the work stuff too much? Because it wasn't give me a little bit less of that and give me more of this. It was just shut that whole shit down. Like cut all that out. At least the message that was left with. I don't know if she intended that piece. I don't know
Mhm.
if she meant anything different. But otherwise, yeah, I did just stop talking about work. And so I think that is the delicate piece of whether you are in a relationship or whether you are it's just a friendship. And we have friends, coworkers and stuff that get it and then we consume it. Or you have other topics and you still or whether I'm messing with this person and they keep doing this and forget my birthday. Hey, like eventually you just kind of get tired of it. And it's like, okay, hey, I need more balance. I need the conversation to also ask me how I'm doing. I need, and so the beginning of the conversation is delicate. And so once we move through that piece, have the conversation and create, I think that is something that where we have balance, we have relationship. And then again, this cuts back to like a healing relationship, not therapy, but like if we need to talk about some serious stuff, we can. And we can also connect on other stuff that allows for this whole thing to run much more smoothly. It's more transparent. And it also just is nice to know that like, okay, yes, there is a certain amount of space that you can take up with this thing. I love to hear about your work. I want to be here for you and I don't want it to consume us. And so for me, once that happened, I began to start implementing this too. I do need to have other stuff that I talk about because I had to sit with myself and say, yeah, no, beyond work, like, what am I doing? I'm going to the gym with the boys. I'm walking the dogs, and then I'm going to sleep and waking up and doing it all over again. No, I want to go to SF and spend more time there in Oakland and take a little bit more photos and do more of the podcast and meet people and talk about different things. I begin investing in that piece. So I'm thankful for the feedback. It's changing things. When it comes to you guys, after you guys had the conversation, Did you guys have to do the same thing, be more intentional with your free time and conversations, or was it more so be vulnerable with more people so that it's not all falling on one person? What changes did you make once you came to the realization?
Well, I think for me is a very unique situation. So as I started that new job, and got closer to my coworkers, it became easier to talk to them about it, right? In that moment, I also have a supervisor who is amazing, and I would give her a call, and she gave me the space to talk about it. And I remember, prior to going on medical leave, I was crying to her and all of this stuff, right? She let me basically tell her everything that was going on. So I definitely leaned a lot more on my coworkers, and like Jorge had mentioned earlier, or I don't know if you had mentioned it, I started to let him know that I needed some time to decompress as I'm getting home. So Jorge is a very touchy-feely person, and so he would wanna hug me and, like, squeeze me, give me kisses, all of that stuff, and I was kind of just like I still felt like I had the stress, like, on my shoulders, and so I would hug him, and then I would be like, "Oh, I need to go and, like, take 5," or, like, "Let me go to the room and, like, chill for a little bit," like he said, "Grab my chips," or, like, something crunchy, I like that crunchiness and let me, like, just watch something to kind of just, like, slowly almost, like, let the day of work
Mhm.
release from my body. And then I could come back and we would ask those questions, "How was your day? How was this? Have you eaten? What should we eat? Should we make something?" Right? And kind of just go about what we had for the rest of the day. During those days where maybe it was just super, 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 super stressful, unfortunately, I did not handle it well. I would come home and tell him about it and then leave and then basically, like, be alone to stress out. And so that's what led to ultimately going on medical leave, because prior to what I'm doing now, I had a different job within the county that had more face time with people, and that took up my whole time, and it was beyond stressful, like, taking a shower seemed like like a waste of time. I could be doing notes, I could be doing this, and I was working 7 hours
Mm,
7 days a week,
yeah.
right? I remember taking vacation for New Year's, Day, I took that whole week off. I was working that whole week, right? So I left that job to something else, and so I feel like I had a honeymoon period of, like, this one is not like, it's stressful, but nowhere near where the other one was at. That only lasted so long before I literally had, like, a breakdown. So that's why I'm saying I feel like mine is unique because then I was almost in a way not forced, but it was very much pushed by a therapist of like, "Laura, you are in burnout. You need a break." And so I literally from that breakdown where Jorge is like, "Do you need a slap or something?" The next day, I called my supervisor and I was like, "Hey, my doctor is giving me notice for medical leave. I'm gonna take it." And she's like, "Take care of yourself." And
Mhm.
so I unfortunately let it go to that point where I had to stop it all.
Yeah.
And so now I'm in a place where I have learned, unfortunately, through something bad, to prioritize going out.
Mm.
Now we're doing better at actually scheduling date nights during the week. Before, we were kind of in a routine, work, dinner, Shaggy's, dinner, walk,
Mm.
watch a little TV,
Talk about work.
yeah, talk about work, go to sleep. And it's hard because it becomes what you know, and almost like it felt like you didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
It was just like, this is just what we do,
And it's a loop.
you know? And so it took me leaving work to realize how much I talked about it and how much it was consuming my life, and then I was bringing my stress, like him into my stress, and he was bringing me into his stress,
Yeah.
right? So that's why it's a bit unique where I fully stepped away from work. But yeah, now, date night is important, and like I said, it's during the week, which I think does take a lot of effort because
Mhm.
you're tired from the day, and sometimes you get home, you don't wanna leave home,
Yeah.
right? And you're just like, "What do you mean I have to keep these pants on? Because 'Cause we're gonna go to the mall or we're gonna have, like, a dinner somewhere," right? Like,
Yeah.
the other day, we went to the movies, and both of us were like, "We could wear our sweats," like, The point is we're going to the movies at 8 o'clock. And I remember one of my first things when he said like 8 o'clock, I was like, but I'm in bed by like 9:45. What do you mean we're going to the right? Like these thoughts are almost
Yep.
automatic of like, I just want to be in bed. But once we did it, I was like, that was so much fun. I loved the movie. Me and him had a good time. Right? Like
Mhm.
you have to try because I think it's almost automatic to not wanna do it, or maybe it seems like a lot of work, and because of this time off, the weekend where he doesn't work, we really try and spend as much time together, so farmers markets are starting to become our thing,
Mhm.
right? He loves coffee, so there's always some type of coffee there to explore. I love having fresh flowers, so I love buying it from farmers markets. Like you mentioned earlier, we have been trying to go to concerts, raves, to have fun, to get out there because while it seems, I guess, to the outside world that we're doing a lot, sometimes within us, it feels like we're not doing enough where we're
Mhm.
spending quality time together.
Right.
Because there's moments where, like, he's watching, like right now, right, basketball. He's watching basketball, but I'm on my Kindle reading. And so while it's nice to be in the same room, like sometimes the next day I'm kind of like, it was nice to be in the same room, but like we hardly said a lot to each other.
Mhm.
And so then the next day I'll try and be more present of I'll put my Kindle down and I'll watch something with him and we'll chit chat that way. So
Yeah.
it's always something I feel like you gotta like turn on to be like, how can I make something kind of like quality time? And I've gotten to the point where I've bought things and I just tell him like, "Oh, hey, I got tickets for this." And he's like, "What? What?" And I'm like, "Yeah,
In bed
I
before 9
did. So don't
date
don't
night.
book anything."
Yeah, I feel like it's just like right now, obviously we don't have any children. We have a dog and, as our nuclear family is pretty much just the two of us. So why not? In a sense, like why not go and enjoy these things, meet new people? I mean, even last weekend, right on Sunday for the wine festival
Mhm.
that we saw you at. Yeah, it was like a long weekend because we had gotten home late from a rave and she had briefly mentioned it. And, the initial urge was avoidance, right? Like I just wanted to
Mhm.
be home and just chill.
Mm.
But it was like, no, like let's just go out. And it ended up being a great time. So I think really mm, recognizing that, especially as we get older, like work is stressful, but it's also our comfort zone. And so we'll still do what we need to do we'll still talk about work maybe, or, we'll still bring up all these issues with our partner because we're used to it, right? Even if it's maybe not good for us, it still feels comfortable. And it
Mhm.
feels uncomfortable to maybe put those feelings aside and just like tell your partner like, what do you want to do today for the rest of the evening, right? Like
Mm.
or do you want to go out to get something to eat, or do you want to cook in today, or should we put on a movie together, rather than, man, I really need to tell you about what happened at work, or like this client really did something, right? Like so trying to just slow down and even for myself personally, like challenge myself to not say these things and to not bring up certain clients or certain things about work. And I also had to re-enter therapy to kind of get that perspective, right? So
Right.
I can't imagine like people who aren't in therapy or aren't getting this feedback, just like it's tough, it's tough because your partner is the one that you feel like is the safest person to be vulnerable around. So I feel like in society, you maybe just see the two ends of the spectrum where you have maybe that one couple that's like constantly talking about work, or you have this couple that's maybe like on an island and they're just like in silos and they don't bring up anything, right? Maybe because that's just how they're used to it. They've never been taught how to talk to their partner about
Mhm.
work. Who knows?
This person can't hold space for it, and
Mhm.
so
And I think something helpful that I also wanna kinda highlight that he said is going out with friends. I think aside from each other, our friends are also our comfort zone, our safe zone. I think with you guys, we can be honest and instead of, "How was work?" "It was fine," or
mhm.
it's stressful." Like, we could say, like, "It's been hard," like, "It's been challenging." And like you said earlier, we kinda talk about it a little bit more, but then we move on,
Right.
right? Because we have established really good relationships with our friends, so we can say that, but then you all also provide this space of just being free, and I think that's why, like, when I like, going back to me buying tickets, a lot of times it's not just for us 2. I buy, like, 4 tickets, and then now we're kind of just like, "Who should we invite?" Right?
Yeah.
Because our friends are these people that also get us out of this world that sometimes we let work consume us, right? You all, we wanna know how your day has been. We wanna know what you've been up to, about your own pups, about,
About your
the
dating life.
yeah, your
Yeah.
dating life, the car that you got. Like, we
Yeah.
wanna know all of this stuff because, 1, we care about you, but it's also just like, we're not our world is also like, you guys are all interlinked with us as
Yeah.
well, and so we have that of, like, when we think about going out and having a good time, a lot of times we do think about, can we do this stuff with other people?
Yeah, that brings a good point because I mean, I think one of the things that Jorge, that works for us because we don't live together. So if new stuff pops up, I don't know it. And so it's like, Jorge, please. Yes, we got done with work. What else is going on new? Versus you guys know if a hair is moved.
Pretty
So,
much.
You got a
so
new cologne?
yeah,
Huh?
Yeah.
so you guys don't need to invest in that piece. So it's like, hey, yes, this is going on with work. This one, how's Lauda? How's Shaggy? How's like,
Mhm.
you ask me how Max and Brody are doing. Oh, there's other things, so that balances our relationship. I think this has brought more insight in because I'll talk to clients whenever they come in about work stress. We normally start off with, is there any recent changes? Is there anything emotional that's tugging at you? Grief, loss, and things like that. If all that is good, you're in a good place for that piece, good. We're gonna move into, well, how are you doing with organization skills and your time management?
Mhm.
And they're like, shitty. Okay. How are you doing with your enjoyable activities? Are you engaging in stuff that brings you joy? Not at all. Okay. Where are you at with your community? Are you like checking with your friends? Are you like, spending time with them? No. And so it's like, well, no wonder. No wonder we're here. So let's get these things back online. But I think that big piece, what Laura said, was about community and these other people. You connect with them, you spread out this stress and you share it with other people. And by consolidating it all and filtering it into one person, it consumes and then that relationship taints. If that's all we talk about, then what do we have?
Right. And we know about like at least as clinicians, we already understand what it means to, you know, to create that dependency,
Right.
right? And in a way also like being at risk of internalizing your partner's issues,
Yeah.
right? Like so
Taking it on. Yeah.
we already understand that, or at least have the knowledge that that can happen a
Hmm.
lot, right? Where then now I'm like stressing like about Laura because she's going to go to work and interact with someone and have a bad experience, or she might be getting
Yeah.
anxiety about a client that I just feel very stressed about, right? And it shouldn't even be about that. But yeah, I can imagine for some couples, they are not turning it off. And so that's just constantly that's just like the reality that they've created,
Yeah.
for themselves is just like nothing but work,
Yeah.
nothing but work. And probably there's a sense of like comfort, but there's a sense of also isolation, right? Because
Right.
they're not maybe going to be speaking to other people and their friends, and maybe they just don't realize that they're just feeding into that stress that comes from work, right? And stress is an addictive thing. You do get addicted
Contagious
to
as well.
stress. I think that's something that we've also realized that we were pretty much reliant on stress to kind of be a medium of conversation for our relationship.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, we can actually relate on levels of relaxation and
Hmm.
pleasurable things. We don't
Mhm.
always have to.
Encounter it.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think as a couple, Laura and I, not that we gossip, we just like to talk about certain things, right? Or did you hear about
Hmm.
this happen? Or like, oh my God, my cousin's going through this, or like
Yeah.
I heard this from my friends. And but when it comes to work, there's a fine line between enjoying that kind of friendly banter kind of way that at least I know I like to talk. You know that I like to kind of like not gossip, but like I've learned it from my mom, or my mom likes to talk about, oh, did you hear what this person did? Or did you hear what
Hmm.
that person did? But separating that from work, right? Not always associating that style of conversation with work. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that
Yeah.
make sense to you?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, I think going back, if you're thinking about it in terms of dating, I don't think it's bad letting them know they talk about work, but I do think the delivery of it is definitely important,
Mm,
right? I think if what you said, Jeremiah, if they're kind of just officially shutting it down, honestly, I don't think there's ever an official shutdown of not talking about work. I would like, at least for me, I wanna leave some space, and I think that's what we've been talking about, right? Leaving some space open of how was work? Because come on, guys, we're at work minimum 8 hours, if not more. What do you mean we're not gonna at least ask, "How was work? How are you? How was your day?" Work is gonna come up at some point,
mm,
and it's then tweaking if they did tell you, "Hey, you talk a lot about work," that person tweaking how much you talk about work or having a further conversation, "Is it okay to still talk to you about work, but I will, be better at maybe how much I tell you or tell you something," and
mhm.
then kinda just be like, "30 minutes, we're done," right? Something like
Yeah.
that, right? But
But
I truly don't feel like you're not ever just gonna shut down work because it's so heavy. When people say, "How was your day?" and it's a random Wednesday, you could be like, "You know what? I've had a stressful day because of work."
yeah.
It's gonna come up. So I don't necessarily agree with, like, we're just not ever gonna talk about it because it takes up so much of our time, but maybe it's more of highlighting, "Hey, you talk about work." It's kind of all you talk about, like,
Mhm.
what can we do to talk about it to a certain point and then move on.
Right.
And I think that's the point that's really, resonates with me because there's that I was like, well, maybe it's important, skill wise to have these questions in the back of your pocket to redirect the conversation.
Yeah.
But I also acknowledge that when you're having a dialogue, that person also needs a certain amount of time to mentally transition, right?
Mm,
If I'm the one that's telling you, let's not talk about work, and then automatically I start to ask you another question, I feel like I'm already putting
Mhm.
pressure on you to have to then put your stress aside or kind of swallow your whatever you're going through
mm,
and force myself into this other conversation
yeah.
versus like, hey, I know you're talking a lot about work. It's kind of taking up a lot of our time. Can we really just kind of like take a pause right now and can I ask you something in a little bit? Can I ask you something else? I don't know, I'm just kind of thinking out loud, right? That
Yeah.
delivery, it's not always just about just changing the conversation with your partner because you don't want them to feel dismissed,
Yeah.
but
It's
you also
just
wanna kinda give him that, "Hey, in a little bit, why don't we talk about something else?"
I would
yeah.
definitely like, if you were to say that to me and I was talking about work and you kind of interrupted and said that, or if I arrived and you said that, I would definitely, like, be like, "What?"
Yeah.
And then I would
We would still have to have the big conversation of,
Mhm.
"Hey, this is an issue, and I want more, I want less, I want something
yeah,
different."
Exactly.
I feel like there are a lot of people who try to avoid these conversations. I don't
they
wanna
do.
hear about the issues between you and your mom. I wanna avoid hearing about you and your boyfriend or girlfriend. No matter what, you still gotta hit the conversation. Let's be honest. That we are both being challenged to change or be different. I want this ritual, this relationship to be free flowing and a lot better.
Mhm.
Then if we can adjust, then perfect, we're great. And then you get what you need, I get what I need, we compromise, and everybody wins. Versus, all right, well, it's all or nothing. Then
Yeah, we're shutting it down.
then what? Then we can't really do anything if it's all or
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah, that would make it hard, and, I mean, you highlighted it perfectly, it's compromise, and that's literally an everyday thing for a relationship because eh, on the outside, you could look at me and Jorge like, "Oh, they're such a great pair together." I mean, we are, but they're such a great pair
No
together.
denying that. No denying.
Look at
And
how long they've been together, yada. But it's literally every day, we're compromising with each other because we are different people.
One thing
Um,
that we haven't talked about is that we actually talk a lot throughout the day texting, and I don't know if that's something that maybe all couples get to do or even in the dating world, right? And so, in a way, I think that's also been helpful for us to just kind of like vent out a couple things or stay connected,
yeah,
uh, because then when we get home to each other, like, there's a certain part of the day that's already been discussed. versus maybe if you don't get the chance to really talk to your partner, maybe because you're, I don't know, you're a surgeon or something, or you're a
Mhm.
firefighter, or I don't know, you're a business person, right? Or you run your own business and you don't have the privilege to just be checking your phone or calling them in between going to a session with a client. It could probably look different, right? So it's again, like we're not a one size fits all kind of thing. I just kind of want to like acknowledge the people that are out there that are listening that maybe don't get the chance to stay connected to their partner as much as we do. A lot of the stuff that maybe they've been waiting to say that they could have said it through a phone or a message is going to be said at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right? So it's just going to take a little bit longer and it's just going to look different for them.
And right now, it's been that way because I'm not working. I don't know if you remember when I was working,
Yeah.
my texts were pretty sparse because the county has its certain guidelines that we have to meet. So I wasn't always on my phone. So, like I said, our situation currently is unique where being off work has given me a lot of time to think about work a lot and
Yeah.
my toxicity with work, honestly. I've always had a bad relationship with work. And so now, because of the free space, our relationship has improved a lot because I have that time out of work to see all the bad stuff that I was doing. And so I do text him a lot more. There's periods where he has back to back and he doesn't text me. You know, he goes in at 8, he doesn't text me until like 11 something, or he doesn't text me until he says heading home for lunch, right? And so like we do have those periods, but there's times where I will randomly just text him of like, "Hey, I did this," and "Hey, I did that." But yeah, a lot of people don't have it because they're out and about or they have a lot of meetings or a lot of sessions, and yeah, at the end of the day, that's the only time they get to talk about work, but it's so crazy because work consumes most of the day, and then you only have a certain number of
Mm.
hours before it's like, you gotta get ready for bed because of work again the next day, right? And so
Right.
it's super important to make those hours count, and I do wanna say it doesn't have to be every day.
No.
So it definitely does not have to be every day. So you, Jeremiah, that you have your work, pups, go to the gym, those days are probably going to be a little bit more than the other days where you get to hang out with the person you're talking to, the person that you're dating, right? But it's when those days happen of you have a date or you have a plan to hang out with your friends or the person you're talking to make them count.
Yeah. And I think just being open to feedback has been helpful. I think I'm been much more mindful about my schedule. I'm much more mindful about the time I have with the person I'm talking to right now. I've been able to create breaks in my schedule a
Mhm.
little bit more. There are some days during the week where I just have nothing and I can just go work out and do nothing or have like a little date night or just sit on the couch and chat it up
Well, I think you went on a bike ride by yourself not that
on
long
a
ago,
bike ride
right?
by
Like a little
myself. Like,
bike ride.
yeah. So at least I've been investing in more things, trying to plan more stuff, especially with the summer here.
Mhm.
And it's been nice so that when we do come, it's like it's easy to not talk about work. It's easier because things flow. It's easier when I can vent to Jorge and Jeremy after our gym sessions because we've created that space. And
Right.
so is this consistent investing in other stuff to help me be well balanced, be in a good headspace. I have other people I can vent to. So if I don't talk to my sweet tenderloin about work, like it's easy, it's fine. Don't worry. I have other places to get it.
Yeah.
I can take up more space for you, and if you wanna talk about work, or we can just goof off or watch the game, or we can do other stuff, and how freeing that is, and so it actually makes me feel more immersed in those moments
Mhm. Mhm.
and better connection, and so then, I'm much more appreciative, and so then life flows much better.
No doubt. Yeah. I would definitely say, like, if I were to give some suggestions or advice to people, is allow your partner to have outlets and not just like activities or things like that, but other people
Mm,
to talk to about their life and their work. And don't feel like you're being left behind because maybe your partner was able to talk about certain stresses with another person. Because I feel like it's so important to just
mhm.
create that space, like I know that when I'm able to talk to you guys or maybe I talk to my therapist or something, like it's not that I don't need Laura, it's that I've been able to do things where now I can be more available for something else, and I don't have to take up like a piece of the pie in my relationship, even though I know with 100% confidence that she's going to be there for me,
Mhm.
right? Even though I know that if I really needed it, she would stay present and she would sit down, right? There are times where I remember I brought up like a CPS case with you, like at the
Yeah.
gym, and, like, I purposely didn't bring it up to you because I was like, "Man," like, and I was, like, ruminating on it, and I was like, "Man, this is where I need, like, a consultation." And easily I could have, like, asked you about it and talked it through, but I was like, "No." And, we were at the gym, and I was like, "Man, I really need, like, a perspective,"
Yeah.
So I would just say, like, be okay with the fact that, or in a way, almost encourage your partner, to be like, "Hey, like, if you need to talk to somebody, like, go, like, talk to your friend or
Yeah.
reach out." It doesn't always have to be us.
Right.
And I would honestly say, at least for me, with Jorge, sometimes having those busy days, it's pretty powerful to send a message, a text message, one of those little voice ones where it's like, "Hey, I've been swamped all morning, afternoon, but I'm thinking about you. I can't wait to see you later." Jorge's like, "I
Mhm.
love you." And like that just goes so far, right? It goes so far. And I think at least while I'm not working, it makes me miss him so that when he does come home, after work, I feel like I'm more present as well, right? And I think it just always feels nice, and at least it lets the other person know that you're thinking about them,
Yeah.
right? So, like, even stuff like that goes a long way, and maybe it helps, maybe it helps you knowing that you took that 2-minute break to, like, think about me during your workday, send me that text message, and then be like, "All right, on for the next day." But, like, I mean, communication is key, and having those, what is it, like, uncomfortable conversations, but
Mhm.
knowing that, like, that person wants to continue to build something with you.
Yeah.
Right, because even though Jorge and I are married, I mean, it's something we always have to work on. It could easily be, like, just because we're married, I don't have to talk to you. I sleep next to you every single day.
You
But,
should
like,
already know. Read my
yeah,
mind
Mhm.
read my freaking mind, you should know. But, like,
by now. Yeah.
yeah, like, we don't. So, we continue to have these conversations that
Mm.
doesn't feel good or kinda hurts a little bit, or you wanna put your walls up and be like, "I'm fine," but you're
Mhm.
not fine, right? And being open to that because at the end of the day, we wanna be together, and that's how it should be as you're navigating, the dating world where you're gonna have these uncomfortable conversations, and you don't control when the other person brings something up.
Yep.
Right, so it could be out of left field, and it's always when it's through text, that is a whole 'nother ballgame because I swear, Jorge
Um,
over here yelling at me, right? That's how I take it. I'm
it's
like,
all
"Oh, he's
caps.
giving
I
me the
know I read it.
attitude, you best believe I'm a," so it's just like it's one of those things where it's
Mhm.
also like, if there is an issue, you would hope of maybe in a text, be like, "Hey, there's a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about," or, "Hey, can we meet up for something?" And then face to face so that you can have that dialogue that is so important because in a text, let me tell you,
Yeah.
I'm always thinking he's yelling at me, giving me attitude, so I'm just like, "I
This is
gotta
the
calm
first that I'm
down."
hearing about this. I've
The
not known
first
about this. I'm
lies.
like,
How
Lie. You're
dare you
lying.
say that to me? You
You're
yelled
lying.
at me, but, like,
Yeah. Perception is a interesting thing.
yeah, you
yes.
Yeah.
can't say shit like that on a text message. Come on now. Like,
Yeah, people have.
talk to me so that I can be like, "Well, what do you mean?" And I still want to talk to you how to,
How to
how
get this
can we get
better?
this
Yeah.
better? And then, I mean, that's also a good way to know, like, is this person, I don't want to say worth, but like, is it worth investing more if
Mhm.
the conversation maybe doesn't and better know of like, I know what to do to make it better. She knows that I listen to her and things like that, and she's gonna help me out a bit too as I navigate how to step away from work talk so much,
Right.
right? Because if somebody right off the bat just says, "I don't want this at
Shut
all,"
down.
you're just kind of like, then I don't really like, then you need me to watch what I wanna talk to you, like,
I gotta hold it. I
yeah,
gotta suppress it. I gotta go to everybody but
yeah,
you. Oh
I have to
yeah.
then
Then we
screen
ain't
my
going.
conversations, right,
because being
Exactly.
in a
before.
relationship isn't all fun and games. It's
Yeah.
it's tough, and again, the whole point is that when you are in a relationship, that person becomes your person. And so there's moments where the other person may not want to give you the space because they have their own shit to deal with, but because you're in that relationship and you care about each other, you literally set it aside because your person needs you, right? Those things are not easy to do, but you do them because you care about the person. You don't want to end the relationship. You don't want to not be there. You don't want them to find it in somebody else, God forbid, right?
Yeah.
And so it's always working towards the relationship. And if somebody said something, it has to be, I need to ask you about it and question it and get more information.
Mhm.
And can we work through this issue that's coming up? If
Yeah.
you have an issue, talk to me more about it. Let me ask you questions, see where you're at. Let me tell you where I'm at. Do we move forward, or is this something that's like not
Maybe. Or how can
not
we make
it?
this fit? Can we make an adjustment? And you just dial it.
It's hard, and I think dating when our parents were doing it is different than how
Oh, yeah, because there's
w
that, a lot more things.
social media,
Yeah.
this whole texting. I remember being in high school and every text counted and I always went
Yeah.
above and my mom had to pay extra, right? Like all this stuff is different, and I feel like the phones have taken so much of that face-to-face interaction. It's like
Mhm.
people feel more confident saying things through the phone, which I think to a
Mm,
certain extent, go ahead and say it.
it makes it some things easy, but
Mhm.
I think I was telling someone the other day that relationships now feel much more choice rather than necessity.
Mhm.
And so we get into this piece of, oh, like you can just choose not to be here if I take up too much space. You can just choose not to be here if I'm too much drama. You can just choose not to be here if you don't like what I ask from our relationship. And so then there's this walking on eggshells, but like I need to talk to you, but like, so yeah, send through a text message is a whole lot easier than sitting face to face and get rejected live in 4K. So it's just these new pieces, these new challenges, and trying to be able to kind of manage a world where we have this role, we have this position that is a part of identity, that is special to us, that we love to share with someone who is close to us, friends, family, significant other. And how do we not let it get in the way of just with a relationship or things that we're creating, that we're building? And it requires tough conversations. It requires us to go over and sometimes over communicate about how we're
Yeah.
doing things and being introspective into this interpersonal relationship that we have. Talk about the space between us.
Yeah, and I think
And
it comes easier for you guys being in the profession that you're in and having gone through all the schooling that you did, the things you learned from the beginning in your internships. I also just
you would think.
I also feel like
Yeah.
you guys are one to one with people, and you
Mhm.
you talk to people who have substance use issues, who have mental health issues. You talk to couples who are going through things within the couple, right? So, like, you guys are so exposed to so much within your worlds. Uh, Obviously, I know that, like, you guys being in it in the relationship, like, obviously there's feelings involved, so
Mhm.
that when you're with a client, you are thinking logically and you have your therapy hat on and
Yeah.
stuff. But when you're in a relationship, it's your feelings first. But like, you guys come with so much knowledge. And like, I sometimes, like, you guys have such a unique perspective, I guess, is what I'm trying to
You
say.
would think, hopefully, because we've,
I think
some of the,
it's come through time,
yeah,
it's been
time,
developed through,
mistakes,
like,
introspection,
yeah, therapy just shows just how it can just consume you and you don't even realize it. And you're
Mhm.
just like, I just need to say everything.
And that's why I'm saying that, like, it's very unique within our friend group because so many of us are in the working profession in one way or another. We get that face to face where
Mhm.
you're dealing with people's lives. A lot of our jobs have so much liability in them, right? As we're trying to
Yeah, a lot of
help,
pressure.
and so it's very unique what a lot of us do. I'd be curious to bring somebody else who has something completely different and just kind of get to see where they're at and just kind of be like, okay, so you do this. that is an engineer or you do marketing or sales. Tell us about your work and how is the stress for you and like what is that difference? Because thinking back on my job, I am so stressed to make the wrong call on something or God forbid I don't ask a particular question and it was a crucial piece. Then at least for me, I internalize it. I'm not good enough. I messed up. Oh my God. Like it's
Well, now we're getting into the
I'm getting
complicated
stressed
Well,
out.
social cultural stuff, you
well,
know?
no. This is in part why we have this topic. Yes, we're looking at it from a helping professional lens, but that what Lauda shared is what a lot of other people in other professions feel like is very unique about theirs, but it is actually universal. A
Much
lot of
more
people
universal.
are
Mhm.
feeling that same piece, this pressure to perform, to prove their worth, to be
Meet
perfect, to
deadlines.
meet
Yeah.
deadlines. And what if they can't? And what does that say about them and their ego and their idea of themselves? And are
Well,
they
think about, like,
incompetent?
the single like, how much are of their, like, long-ass day in construction are they bringing into their household, or how much are they not because
Mhm,
they feel like they have to endure all these
Mhm.
things, or the single mom who just has to suck it up for her kids
yep,
and
put
is
it all
not
together,
able
yeah,
to really just have a partner or a space to vent out these things, right? It'd be really curious to see where are they getting that, but,
yeah,
yeah, I can
no
imagine there's a
groups.
lot of people that feel that pressure of, "I just need to keep going," you know?
And so here you guys are creating more work for me to go find these people and get them on the podcast.
We need a bigger space. We need a debate. I'm just
We
kidding.
need to get what lawyers think about. I got lawyer friends, I got a firefighter friend,
Hey man,
We got a
you bring them here,
principal.
you
they'll get
know?
on the couch.
One of my
So
friends who works in HR, and I'm just like, "How do you manage that? You basically fire people all day." Like, how consuming is that knowing that you're gonna have to, like, give bad news to somebody
Or fire
tomorrow?
someone,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
and do
Or
you
deal with some bullshit between coworker Y,
right?
coworker
Are you gonna
A.
bring that up to your wife, or is that something you're just gonna keep on to
yeah,
yourself,
take it to the
or
grave.
yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, like, it's very important and it has to be, at least in the beginning, very conscious to step away from work once work is done. It has to be a conscious effort. It becomes easier every now and then sometimes because work has stressful periods, I'm
Right.
sure. So when it's very stressful, sometimes it's harder, but that's when it's more important to try and step
Mhm.
away. But it's definitely, I think, a conscious thing, probably daily, to just kind of be like, hey, work is done. I made it. And like you know, you went on a bike ride,
Mhm.
you go take your dogs to walk somewhere new and maybe sit on the grass and take those moments to see your dogs play around or lay down, right?
Yep.
It's sometimes even those things that may seem very small really have a much larger impact. And you could be texting your partner,
Mm.
calling them on the phone, FaceTime as well if you can't see them in person, or you could hit up Jorge or somebody and be like, "Hey, are you busy right now?" Just like what you did on Sunday. I think initially we were gonna have a very chill day, and then it was like, "Oh, Jeremiah texted," and I was like, first of all, Jeremiah doesn't reach out to us a lot." And
Lies, lies, lies.
no, but I was like, "Hey, I had seen that. You know what? That sounds like a really good time." But again, it was a conscious thing of like, "I think we could have fun. Let's
Mhm.
do it."
Let's say
And I had
yes.
so much fun,
Yeah.
right?
And I think it's just another layer to this is if you can't do it as a couple, hopefully you have that confidence to encourage your partner to do something.
Mhm.
One conversation that I had to have with Laura is that, like, when I started going to the gym, it was like, well, what's the purpose of going to the gym, right? Like, what's the reason? Kind of like when I was doing more consistent podcasting with my friend John, I was like, well, what's the purpose of that? Like, why do you
Mhm.
need to do that? And shouldn't you be focusing at home or like in our relationship? It was like, "No, I need, like, these places to just vent or do certain things." And so sometimes just feeling like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go to the gym with the guys tonight." Sounds good, like, that's great. That feels so much nicer than having to justify or kind of, like, create, like, a conversation. Well, like, we're not spending enough time together or, like, I don't know, I don't wanna go, like, on a rant or anything, but it was just kinda like one of those, like, it's been really nice that I've been able to tell Lauda, like, the reason why I like to go to the gym is because it's, like, this space that not only I get to stay connected to my friends, but I really just get to release this stress, and for her to just be like, "Okay, sounds good. I'll see you when you get back." Man, that feels I feel so much more secure in my relationship, and I think it adds to that trust. I've gotten this routine of like texting her like, "Hey, we're starting to run now," or like,
Mm,
"Hey, we're hitting the sauna," and she might be asleep already, but knowing that we're still connected, but also feeling like I'm not like abandoning my partner or
yeah,
like, oh, he's getting some outlet with someone else or somewhere else, and I'm being left behind. I think that's just been really a good conversation to have with your partner, right? Like that, hey, these are also parts of
Mhm.
me, especially as you're dating, because naturally your identity revolves around work. And that's typically what, when you're getting to know someone, the first thing that you're going to know about them.
yeah,
You're not really going to know about their personal life, about their family life until later on. And I think after their work life, the next thing that you start to discover about the person is their social circle, right? Their community,
yeah,
what they do outside of work. So for some people, it could be like, man, like you're a very social person. Like, man, you really go out with a lot of people.
yeah,
Uh, or like, oh, you really don't do a lot. So once you kind of hit that balance of now we're in couplehood or now we're in a partnership, that those aren't things that you're trying to now hold back from your partner, but you're actually trying to reinforce and encourage them to continue to do that.
right. Exactly. Well, guys, another interesting conversation, another banger, another Jorge Jeremiah collaboration, and we got Lauda in the
True,
mix with
Laura.
this one.
We got J squared out
J
here.
squared. So we're just taking over.
J squared equals L.
So yes, this is the fourth time I've seen Jorge this week, and
Shit, might see you tomorrow too.
shit, I might see him tomorrow.
Wow, what's happening tomorrow?
I don't know. Be with Kai.
Yeah, let's do it.
Is what I tell
Yeah.
you about the memory thing. Remembering.
You're doing what?
What did
You
I
guys
tell
have
you?
plans without me.
What did I tell you?
How
We need to
dare
talk
you.
about that in the
I
podcast
thought I
out
was
here,
doing
you know?
so good.
Got it.
I was
Gotcha.
doing
Thank you guys for tuning in. Therapy House, the podcast. Jeremiah Night Out. Say bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you all.
See ya.